Okay, look, hopefully we're recording. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Rob Wilson and I am the co-founder and CEO of Incent. It felt like the right time to, as we cross, a streamer community of over 2,000 now, and pushing on quite quickly, to raise comms, to make contact. I probably should have done this earlier, if I'm honest, and the reason I haven't is it's a hard thing to do, right? You'll understand that. I certainly do. It's a big deal to put yourself and your ideas and your personality public, and to stand up for anything you might be saying, and it only gives me more respect for what you guys and girls do every day, because I can tell you this has given me sleepless nights. Crazy, right? But there you are. So I'm going to do an AMA and ask me anything, but the difference here is that you haven't asked me anything, so it's a kind of ask myself anything. But what I'm trying to, what a good outcome would be for me would be the start of a conversation with you, all of you. I very much regard our creative community as the heart of what we're doing, and I need your feedback, and I'm interested to hear from as many of you as possible, so that we can make the product all it can be, so that you can get the most out of it and that your audience can get the most out of it. That's why I'm doing this. So look, let's start with what is Incent about? What's our mission? And I can't. It's very difficult for me to answer that question without telling you a story about my life. So I thought I would start there. So you'll already have noticed that I'm older than your average bear. I'm 50 years old this year. I was born in 1970, just to the north of London in Great Britain, and I was brought up in the Essex countryside. I joined the British Navy at the age of 18. Why did I do that? Hard to remember now, but in the day, Britain and the West were locked into a Cold War with the Soviet Union, and it was actually getting pretty hot as I was growing up through the 70s and 80s. I can still remember, believe it or not, people building shelters in their gardens, and I can also remember public service announcements and information, sort of documentaries on the impact of radiation and nuclear fallout. I can remember the campaign for nuclear disarmament and the demonstrations at missile bases at Green and Common and other areas around the UK. It was a big part of my life, and so it wasn't unnatural for a young person to want to join the armed forces in Britain, and it was an act of patriotism, and we wanted to defend ourselves, essentially, just defend Britain, defend the Western way of life, really. And so that's what I did. I joined as a commissioned officer at the age of 18, and then one thing leads to another. The Cold War ends, and we run through the 90s, and it was a good time, actually. Generally, as the world sort of opened up. The one dark spot that I got involved with, which marked me, was the civil war in Yugoslavia in the mid-90s, and my abiding memory of being involved in that conflict was what awful things happen when states fail, when society disintegrates and enmity comes to the fore. Now I'll come back to that. But for me, and it took a while to understand it, as we rolled into the new millennium, the 21st century, our role was changing. You could see it. We were part of a much larger coalition led by the Americans, and it wasn't, to my mind, any national security was this other thing that we didn't do anymore. We were about protecting a global system, and that started to feel odd. And then we became embroiled in the conflicts in the Middle East, and that felt decidedly uncomfortable because I'd moved from a defensive mindset into, I was part of an organisation, a machinery that was prepared to make war, to make conflict happen for the greater good. And by this stage, I was becoming, I was quite senior in the British Navy. I was commanding warships, and so I was responsible for, my sailors. And I was leading them into harm's way, and I was less and less supportive of the harm I was, the reasons behind what we were doing. In the midst of this, as we run through the first decade of the 21st century, you could see the financial system on which Western democracy is built melting down. And to put it in a nutshell, I came to feel that I was running the wrong race. I hadn't put it all together, but if I was all about protecting the West, then it seemed to be eating itself somewhere else. I was out at sea, but and to be specific, what I was doing in 2008 was working in the Mediterranean with the NATO force, and we were acting as policemen, stopping the boat people, refugees coming by sea to Europe. And that was even less comfortable for me because you looked into those boats and you could see people just like you who were just trying to get to a better place to lead a better life. I have a wife and 4 children, and I could easily have seen myself in that boat, that I was, part of stopping getting to its intended destination. In any case, I fell out of love essentially with what my life had become about, and I made the decision to move sideways and get an education in order that I could start running up a plan B. And 4 years after that, I made the decision to emigrate, to move my family from the West to Australia. And in that process, I'd learned to trade. I taught myself to trade the financial markets. I'd qualified to manage other people's money and was doing that quite successfully. And that gave me a box seat when Bitcoin came over the horizon in 2011, 2012, and ultimately provided me with the capital to operationalize Plan B. And Plan B essentially is Incent. So what is Incent's mission? Well, Incent's mission is really driven by what I've seen happen to society since the GFC. What I've seen happen is that as governments and central banks and the financial system attempts to recapitalise economies, what I've seen is that capital to flow directly into either the financial markets or other monetizable assets like property, which has driven the prices of those assets way out of the reach of ordinary people. At the same time, I've only seen a fraction of that new capital reach everyman, reach the masses. I've witnessed wage stagflation. I've witnessed states put their children into debt before they even finish their education. And the result of that has been a huge disintegration of trust in the machinery of state, in institutions, and a palpable destruction of hope and confidence in our way of life. Well, if you spent 2 years of your life of Yugoslavia, like I have, and you've seen where that can end up, and then you are witnessing the palpable movement of opinion from the centre of politics to the fringes, to the hard right and the hard left. Then since you've seen the final destination, do you want to do something to whatever you can to help humanity back onto a different path, particularly if you've got children? And so Incent's mission is to help recapitalise human beings, the masses, if you like. That's our mission, plain and simple. We want to help recapitalise humanity because we understand that with that, or a byproduct of that, is hope and trust, and all of these powerful forces that help bind our societies together. That's our mission. Wow, heavy way to start, but I didn't know another way of tackling it, so I hope that made some sense to you. All right. The next question I've asked myself is, why have we launched Incent with gamer streamers? And again, you're gonna have to brace yourselves for a long answer here, but I'll do my best. Back in the day, back in the pre-internet world, which obviously being an old bastard I remember, it was pretty easy to value a human being. You valued a human being on what they could contribute in a physical way, what they could carry, lift, what their manual skills were, and or what they said, what they thought, what they wrote. These aren't difficult concepts to understand, but what I see in the post-internet world and the post-financial crisis world is a very different way in which human beings are valued. And this has a lot to do with the onward march of technology. So when you put technology, finance, and the internet together, what you find is that from a financial perspective, what we really appear to care about is how much debt we can stuff in a human being. Since money is essentially free to create, literally free to create, if you have been bestowed the license to create it, what you're looking for is a return on that money, and the only way you can do that is by distributing that debt into human form and charging it an interest to pay it back. And that's very clearly a key property that the state, or not necessarily the state, but commerce values in a human being, is how much debt can I pack into you? That don't feel good to me. That feels unhealthy. With respect to the internet and commerce and how that whole piece works, we're all desperate to get a human's attention. So we care about how much reach they've got, how much clout they have, how many likes their content receives. And so far as I can see, the way commerce is set up in the internet age at the moment is where we're not paying for that. We leverage it, but the human being involved is not seeing that value. In fact, with respect to the attention economy, I think we're at the stage now where we're being pitched and prodded, and there's calls on our attention now to the extent that where human beings are becoming saturated. Like we are the finite resource, right? There's only so many humans. We have a set of ears, 2 eyeballs, and a pretty modest servo connecting that lot together. Our interface is actually pretty modest, and yet we are being fucking saturated with information. And it's a problem in one respect in that it stresses people out. You know, it forces them into they feel stressed because they're over engaged. But from my perspective, I also see that, and Incent sees that as an opportunity. And what we think is that if human beings are the finite resource in this new economy, that we should be leveraging that to get paid, to build capital, and to recapture hope. That's what Incent is trying to do. If we're about recapitalising people, then the attention economy is the opportunity. So why gamers streamers? Well, we could see from forum boards generally that, and our own research, that if you look across social media generally, 96% of people posting content wherever they're posting it, whatever they're creating, are finding it very, very difficult to monetize what they are doing. And that's because you have to be at a certain size. You have to be at a medium to large influence community to attract the attention of traditional agencies who would manage you and bring the dollars in against what you were doing. 96% across social media aren't in that situation. So what Incent is saying is, well, if we can provide a means to help that 96%, then we ought to be able to bring the ad dollars in on the other side to pay for that to happen. Gamer streamers, specifically again, seemed to us to have the most pressing problem in this regard at a time where streamed content of esports and gaming was marching quickly north, and by definition and inclination, gamer streamers are not just tech savvy, but they tend to be crypto aware. So in terms of the fuel that we intended or that we use to reward or to make this ecosystem happen, it's just a great fit from every perspective. So that's why gamer streamers. Make sense? We're going to find out. So, all that said, then the next question I'd ask myself is is that you may be interested in is what is Incent's business model? Well, again, I'm hoping this one is fairly straightforward. So our idea, the concept is if we can pay or reward content creators to reward their audience, knowing that for that to happen, the audience must arrive at a redemption endpoint, then that endpoint, that web property, ought to be monetizable in exactly the same way ultimately that Google and Facebook and any other web property monetizes, by pulling in ad dollars who are very keen to engage with your combined audiences. Where we differ is that we then take those ad dollars and use those ad dollars to buy Incent, our reward fuel, off the open market in order that we can maintain our own ledger, and in doing so pull open supply of Incent off the market and drive the price of an Incent token north to the benefit of everyone who's holding Incent. That doesn't feel like that doesn't feel like rocket science to me. That feels pretty simple and coherent, right? There, in any commercial chain, there are publishers, content creators, there is audience, and there are those brands and commercial entities who are desperate actually to engage with that audience. So we've developed and are continuing to develop technologies that would allow that to happen in as seamless way as possible, and ensuring that everyone who is contributing to that dialogue is for the first time properly rewarded for doing so. Why do we use cryptocurrency? We use cryptocurrency because it's finite in supply, and that is, I mean, you will see, right now in the news that is fundamentally different to the way that fiat currency, our dollars, Aussie dollars, euros, and pound sterling operate. It wasn't always that way. As recently as 1972, the entire economy was pegged to, at least partially, to gold. We were still operating something of a gold standard up until 72. But when President Nixon ran out of dollars to fund the Vietnam War, he took America off this loose peg to gold. And you can see what's happened since. The money supply has gone north. The global level of indebtedness has gone stratospheric. The value of every currency union has gone south. And asset classes like property and equities and everything else has gone north as well. So things like income disparity has blown out. We now talk about income apartheid, where 1% of the planet own over half of it. So all of these inequities are actually pretty recent. Well, cryptocurrency is not like that by design. If you're trading if your ecosystem is built on a fuel that is finite in supply, then the greater the demand for that fuel, the more valuable that fuel has to become by definition. So cryptocurrency speaks directly to Incent's mission of helping ordinary people build wealth. Still with me? All right, we'll try another one. Okay, let's get to how we're going and what's next. What are we building? How are we looking at this? Well, we started working with LT Zonda, our first gamer streamer, last October 2019, and he was able to help us get a prototype into the market, which we then quickly built out with both Zonda's help and the rest of the community as it was building. What staggered me is how quickly that community has grown organically. So at the end of December, we'd gone from one streamer who really launched in the second week of December. So in 3 weeks, we'd grown from one to about 500 streamers who were using Incent. It took us just over a month to double that again to 1,000, and just over another month to double again to 2,000. And I think we're about 230, 240 today. Sorry, 2,040. So we're pretty staggered by that, given the fact that we haven't deployed an ad budget. We don't have an ad budget per se. This has been purely organic, and so we're thrilled about that. And the fact that we've grown so quickly has given us the way already to start conversations up with those advertising and commercial entities who would be keen to engage with the audience that you guys generate. We think there's potential to grow quickly because of the outreach that your combined efforts give us across multiple platforms, and that's quite a key component. Because Incent is platform agnostic, the reach already that we're enjoying across the various streaming platforms is meaningful. So look, I mean, in broad terms, we're really pleased with how the launch has gone, but we feel that if we make the right decisions now and build out the right features now, that we can grow quicker still. Initially within game streaming, but then into video on demand, so services like YouTube, and then why not all across all social media. There's no reason technically why anyone posting any content on any platform didn't ought to be able to reward their audience, whatever that might be, monetarily for engaging with that content, and for them to earn for doing that. So for both parties to earn for doing that, because it's still generating traffic to an endpoint which can be monetized with advertisers. But the first thing that has to happen is that we need to start rewarding our streamers on the nose for doing what you are doing. So you'll know that at this moment, as I'm talking to you right now, you can reward your audience and they can donate back to you. But the very next thing that's going to happen on Incent, and I'm really excited about it, is that hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will be rewarding you, the streamer, every single time one of your codes is redeemed by one of your audience. And I think that is hugely important. I wish we could have got it live sooner, but it's coming, and it's coming fast. And so for the first time in our short life, I'll be able to look you all in the eye and say there is a real and immediate monetary advantage to you for doing what you are doing and using Incent to do what you are doing. And I think against the backdrop of COVID-19 and all of the stress that I know that you're living with at the moment, it makes me happy, right? Because it completes the circle. So I'm really excited about that. So to put figures on that, we currently price our reward codes in Australian cents, as you know. So they're currently 4 cents a code per audience member who redeems. So we're going to set the reward for the streamer at 2 cents every single time one of your codes is redeemed. Look, I'm smiling because I'm excited about it, and I can't see why you guys and girls wouldn't like that. And it's like I say, I wish we could have done it sooner, but we're doing it now, and yeah, it should be good. So hopefully within a couple of weeks that'll be done. The next thing we need to do after that is make it easier for you to operate and for others to operate our software. And the way we have chosen to do that is to build an app which will live within the Streamlabs family. I know that not all of you use Streamlabs, but we made that decision because it's the easiest way for us to make Incent accessible to the most people within your community quickly. So imagine a situation where you're running Streamlabs open broadcasting software, you download the Incent app, and now all you do is log into Incent when you stream and your codes run. So it just runs in the background, the overlays pop up, and you're earning every single time one of your audience redeems one of those codes. That's pretty exciting too, because it just opens up the potential of Incent to anyone who's streaming live, whether they're on their mobile phone, whether they're a gamer, whatever it is they're doing. If they want to encourage a live audience to engage with them and get paid to make that happen, they'll just need to be running Streamlabs OBS. We think the timescale for that is about 6 weeks from today. We're thinking we're hoping and cautiously confident that we can be there by the end of May. So we're pretty excited about that. I think what happens beyond that really depends on how we go commercially, and also how we might want to move into video on demand and more persistent forms of content. I think there's a balance to do. There's a balance to be struck by moving quickly and not forgetting where you came from, and continuing to optimize for your core community, which is you guys. But I'll keep you posted. That's certainly what I've done here. Is just really that I've just outlined the next two steps, two development steps for us. And like I say, streamer rewards we think within the next 2 weeks, hopefully, and Stream Labs, about a month after that. Two development cycles, 2 sprints for us. We're already working on it, but it needs to be right before it goes. Okay, look, that's what I've got for you for now. I'm really keen to know or to learn whether you found this valuable, or even if you didn't find this valuable, please, if you see if you reckon there's a better format, for God's sake, tell me. I'm a complete beginner at this. It's taken me longer, as I said at the beginning, to summon the courage to sit here looking at a camera and in an effort to communicate with you. So first thing you can do for me is feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know if a live proper AMA would be of value to you, and how often you reckon that should be, because I'd far rather be talking to you live or feel like I'm interacting than just speaking to camera. The second thing you can do for Incent, and indeed for yourselves and your communities, is keep streaming. Why do I say that? I say that because I understand that in times of stress and anxiety, they're the hardest times for any creative or any leader to operate in, because it's very natural as a human being that you don't want to transfer or project that stress or the anxiety that you're feeling against the backdrop of this bloody awful pandemic to your audience. But what I want to try to communicate to you here and now is that you're not just creatives, you're leaders. I don't care whether your community is a handful or hundreds or thousands. Your audience expects you to step up, even more so when times are tough, and do what you do so well, because that reduces their stress levels. They need you right now to continue doing exactly what you were doing before. So please, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Even if you don't run Incent, what you do is important. It makes people's lives a little bit better. Please don't stop. Please fight the urge to, down tools. Please continue to get out there to your audience. And the last thing you can do for us is keep running and promoting Incent, because every time you run Incent, you're putting value, which I fervently hope will be worth significantly more than it is today, into the hands of your followers. And they will, if I have my way, love you for doing that. That's it. That's it, guys. Again, hope this is of some value to you. You're looking at the guy behind all this for all its strengths and ills. You can see I'm just a human. I'm just a floppy person, just like you guys. I can be got at, and I want to engage with you. Hopefully this is the start of a conversation. Peace out.